This is Purpose of Life. Welcome to this program, Purpose of Life. Purpose and life, two very powerful words, and as a combination, it's really deadly. We've got to understand it, we've got to live it, and we've got to really go deeper. And to go deeper, we are talking about the topic on faith, and we are talking about a character in the Bible on Abraham. Abraham has been given a large title, and he's an amazing character, and we go deeper, we'll understand what really faith is all about. Joining me in the studio is Dr. Simon, President of Shaping Generations. It's a global ministry, and Dr. Simon is from Canada, and he's an amazing leader with a lot of content. Dr. Simon, it's a pleasure talking with you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Simon, as we expound on this word on faith, in the last program we spoke about three important components. One was keeping the heart right.
Yes.
And number two, you said faith is an MOU. It's not a one-way traffic.
No.
It's an MOU, so which means if you need to build on faith, God does one part and you do another part.
Do the other part.
And you also said faith can take you into another dimension. Faith is a substance.
Yes.
And in today's program, Simon, faith, moving in faith also has got its own interesting dynamics.
Yeah.
And we're talking about life of Abraham, and Abraham, as he moved, he faced challenges. Now, as you walk in this MOU, as you walk in this faith walk, how do you encounter challenges? How did Abraham encounter challenges, and how did he solve it? And how did he see God's perspective? Explain that process.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said much earlier, that in this MOU, what establishes it is the belief and the trust of the two parties.
Correct.
So because of the heart that God found in Abraham, God trusted Abraham, and Abraham trusted God. And that's why it was accredited to him as righteousness. When he is moving in the realm of righteousness, that's an encounter which could only be established by the covenant with God himself. So whenever he encountered any of the challenges in his life, his faith and trust was on the MOU that God was still faithful in every area and every angle. So that is very important. That is very, very fundamental. If that is not appreciated, then at the end of the day, it's not going to be, the MOU is going to break. And once it breaks, then Abraham goes back to where he came from, and all visions shattered, loss of the promised land, frustration and everything. So in all his walk, he wanted by all means to do his part. And that's why he built an altar every time. God, wherever he went, he built an altar and says, this is the meeting point. This is where we are going to reevaluate our covenant and renew it. And that's why when we get further, when we get to that point, that's where the Lord said, take your son to the point of sacrifice, because that was a place of renewal.
So the renewal also is constant.
The renewal is also constant. And so each place that Abraham went to, an altar was lifted in order to continue that MOU.
Let's talk in particular about a situation now Abraham is facing. Now he's got Lot, and there's a lot of quarreling happening. Yeah. Though Lot was his own brother's son, a lot of people from Lot's servants and Abraham's servants are fighting, and it's a situation. Now Abraham is still in the covenant part, but how does he deal with the situation? Explain that process.
Okay. Firstly, Abraham knows he's a man of a covenant. That has been established. His heart is right with God. We are not told more about Lot.
Correct.
He simply followed Abraham. So Abraham did not want to behave as if he was not a man after covenant. So he always was in tune. He said, well, the young man who is not a man of a covenant, let him take the lion's share. I'm a man under covenant. The Lord will supply my needs according to his riches in glory.
What a way to look at it, you know?
So when they reached a point where Lot's servants were fighting against Abraham's servants because of the greener pastures,
yes,
Abraham faced with only two options. One, the other side is a desert, then the other side is greener pastures. And both of them are initially supposed to fight for the best for their own animals.
Correct.
But what does Abraham do? In order to deal with it, because he was a man under covenant, he said, choose whatever you like. If you go to the right, I go to the left.
Sure.
If you go to the left, I will go to the right. He knew what the answer was.
So he gave the choice to Lot.
He gave the choice to Lot.
Knowingly that one is a desert, one
in the desert and one is not. And then immediately he did that, the Lord said, lift up your eyes to as far as your eyes can see. So have a good sight. Let your eyes reach as far as they can. That land will be yours.
So which means God is saying, trust me, that's it.
Trust me.
Don't look at
And you know, Abraham had to go through barren seasons. So when he believed God, everything did not become roses. In fact, his life became so rough based on the MOU. We are not sure of how he lived in the land of terror. But there is no evidence that explains that he suffered.
Correct.
Even when Joshua was writing about him and about the forefathers in Joshua 24, he did not talk about Abraham being someone who suffered. So he probably had, under God's common grace, he must have had a supply of all things. But when he entered the covenant with God, all things became so rough. But because of his sight, he did not lose his sight of faith. He was not discouraged at every point. So it was problem after problem, war after war, to a point that another man turns up. Sorry, I may have to go there. Another man, the king of Sodom, comes to him and says, well, you have good military men. Can you give them to me? And then I will give you everything that you need. Everything.
Yeah.
Wealth, everything. In Genesis chapter 14, verse 23. And then he said that I would take not even a single stripe of what you offer, lest you say, I made Abraham rich.
Oh, what a statement.
Lest you say, I made Abraham rich. Now, if we go further, the scriptures reveal to us that the blessings of the Lord maketh rich, and they add no sorrow. And those riches may not be immediate, as it was with Abraham. And he uses that statement when he has not even arrived in the promised land. He says, I don't want anybody to say I made Abraham rich. Why? The MOU establishes that he will be blessed and he will have many descendants, even if those were not within sight, within his physical eyes. He believed God.
So there's a lot of depth to the MOU.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's not just an ordinary MOU. It's a very deep MOU where God is in control.
He's in control.
And we need to believe that.
But then Abraham also discerns the heart of God.
Correct.
Because it's the two hearts that are meeting.
Right.
There is God's intentions are good, and Abraham's intentions towards God are good.
Correct.
That's why whatever God said, Abraham believed. And whatever Abraham said, God believed. So when Lot went to Sodom, to Sodom and Gomorrah in that area, and then God was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And then Abraham went to petition God.
Absolutely.
And he says, if there are 50 people, are you going to destroy?
That's a very interesting conversation, Simon.
Yes.
I'm going to talk more deeper on that, but we're going to take a short break on that. Because that's a huge, that's a conversation which we need to take time to discuss. And I really like what you're saying in a sense of the covenant itself was a complete trust and belief. I think now I understand why when people say that why their prayers are not getting answered is because as much as they're asking, they're not believing.
do they trust God?
Correct.
Even in their prayer, do they trust God? Matthew 7:7,
Yeah.
ask and it shall be given to you, seek and you shall find,
But
and
there's an
knock on the
obligation
door. But
to the
there is
contract.
it's an obligation to the contract. You cannot,
So we cannot go one-sided and expect God to do everything.
not at all.
And also the other part you're saying is, yes, it's an MOU, yes, it's a contract, yes, it's a covenant, but it's not bed of roses. You mature in this faith.
You mature in the faith.
We're going to talk about the maturity in faith, and that's coming after the short break. And friends, we're talking about faith of Abraham, and the program is Purpose of Life, and we're talking with Dr. Simon. Don't miss the next part.